Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are breaking down chapter 118, Someone is There.
And for the first time on this island, we finally know exactly who that someone is.
Oh, we do. And it comes with the reveal of a bounty so massive, so old, it completely redefines the scale of this world. We're talking about a 100-year-old, 100 million berry price tag. Each. If you want to make sure you catch every single piece of ancient history and world-shaking lore Oda is dropping, you should probably plant your flag with our crew and follow the show. You don't want to get left behind on an island like this.
It's a dangerous place to be alone.
Exactly. So let's get into it. The chapter kicks off right in the middle of the chaos. Dorry is furious, convinced Luffy and the crew sabotaged his drink.
The explosive barrel. He thinks it was a betrayal. It's a very primal reaction. He's not thinking clearly. He's just reacting with a warrior's rage. There's no investigation, no questioning. He was shown hospitality. He accepted a gift, and the gift harmed him. In a warrior's code, that is the deepest of insults.
And you can't even blame him. Put yourself in his giant shoes for a second. You've been stuck here for a century. Some new, interesting people finally show up. They're friendly, they share a drink with you, you finally have company. You take their gift, this rum you were so excited about, and it blows up in your stomach. It's not just an attack, it's a violation of trust and hospitality.
It's the worst kind of betrayal because it uses kindness as a weapon. Vivi is trying her best to calm him down, to be the voice of reason. She's pointing out the obvious. He's already hurt. He can't fight like this. But logic is useless against this kind of emotional wound. He's not listening to words. He's listening to his own roaring anger.
Yeah, he's seeing red. Or, well, blue, I guess. He's the blue ogre. He just goes on a rampage. He swings that massive sword and Luffy just zips out of the way. The panel of that sword just carving through the forest behind where Luffy was standing is insane. The sheer force would have turned a normal person into a fine mist.
It's a perfect example of how Luffy handles overwhelming force. He doesn't try to block it, he just isn't there. We saw it with Don Krieg's spiked cape. We saw it with Arlong's charge. His rubber body isn't just for punching, its primary advantage is evasion and absorbing blunt force. He doesn't meet force with force unless he has to.
That's his whole deal. He doesn't overpower things, he just outmaneuvers reality. He sees this giant, unstoppable force, and his brain just goes, nope. He grabs a tree from deep in the forest, slingshots himself past another attack, and then just rockets headfirst right into Dorry's gut. Gomu Gomu no rocket, straight into the internal injury.
It looks brutal, but it's not a malicious attack. You can tell from Luffy's expression. This isn't a grin of a man enjoying a fight. This is the gritted teeth expression of someone doing something they don't want to do. It's the only tool he has to stop a friend from tearing himself apart. It's a mercy blow.
Exactly. It's a knockout blow delivered to save someone. We saw it when he fought Zoro back in Whiskey Peak. He wasn't trying to beat Zoro, he was trying to snap him out of it. Here, he's not trying to win a fight. He's trying to end it before Dorry bleeds out or makes his injury even worse.
Dorry even seems to realize it at the last second. He's so massive, he just steps on Luffy to stop him, but he feels the rubber body squish under his foot, and you see the thought click in his mind. A devil fruit user. It's a moment of clarity right before the lights go out, and then he's down.
He says Luffy was careless, but I think you're right. I think he was the one who was careless. He was so blinded by rage that he didn't even assess his opponent. He just saw a small person and assumed he could crush him. He was careless with his anger, careless with his assumptions.
A warrior's greatest strength is his clarity in battle. By letting rage consume him, he lost that clarity and was defeated by an opponent he could have otherwise understood. It's a small, tragic lesson within the larger conflict.
For sure. And look at Luffy right after. He's not celebrating. He's not hyped up going, I beat a giant. He pops out of the dirt covered in mud, and he is furious. He knows. He says it flat out. It couldn't have been Brogy, and it sure as hell wasn't Nami, Vivi, or Usopp. He knows someone else is on this island pulling the strings.
That's the captain's instinct. It's not just about fighting, it's about perception, and his trust in his people is absolute. There was never a moment where he doubted anyone, not for a single panel. His immediate conclusion, without any evidence other than his faith in his friends, is that there is an outside enemy.
He trusts his friends, both old and new, 100%. It's his superpower, even more than the Gomu Gomu no Mi. Anyone who messes with that bond, that trust, is going to have to deal with him, and we know how that ends. He will tear down anyone who tries to make his friends fight each other.
And just as Luffy reaches this conclusion through pure instinct and faith, Oda cuts away and shows us exactly who that enemy is, confirming that Luffy's intuition was perfectly correct.
Yeah, we get this bizarre scene with a dinosaur, a triceratops I think, trying to take a bite out of what looks like a giant melting candlestick sitting in the middle of the jungle. It's the most out-of-place thing we've seen on this island yet, and the dinosaur just shatters its teeth.
It's a house made of wax, and walking out from behind it are two familiar faces, Mr. Five and Miss Valentine, the Baroque Works agents from Whiskey Peak.
They are not having a good day. It's pretty clear they've been roughing it in the jungle. Miss Valentine just crushes the dinosaur with her kilo fruit, 10,000 kilogram press, just flattens it into a pancake. That's one way to deal with prehistoric wildlife. And then they go inside this weird wax house.
And sitting there, calmly drinking tea, is a man with a 3 shaped into his hair. This is Mr. 3.
Bro, the immediate vibe from this guy is just smug. He's got this air of absolute, unshakable confidence. He's sitting there with his little finger out, sipping tea like he's at a garden party, not in a dinosaur-infested jungle. And next to him is his partner, Miss Goldenweek, who is just asleep, painting. It's so weird and immediately unsettling.
Everything about the scene is designed to be unnerving. The quiet, domestic setting in the middle of a primeval wilderness, the nonchalant attitude of the two new characters. Mr. Five and Miss Valentine report in. Their clothes are tattered, they're clearly stressed, and Mr. 3 doesn't even let them finish. He just immediately starts mocking them for failing their mission to assassinate Vivi.
And he's so cutting about it. He doesn't even raise his voice. It's this calm, condescending tone. Mr. Five tries to say they just need to regroup and complete their original mission, and Miss Valentine makes an excuse, saying they failed because they didn't know a princess would have pirate bodyguards. A pretty reasonable excuse if you ask me.
But to Mr. 3, it's not reasonable at all. He just dismisses it with this chilling line. You didn't fail because you made a mistake. You failed because you were weak.
That is ice cold. He just completely tears them down. He lays into them. He says making excuses is for children, and that as professionals for Baroque Works, losing to an opponent is as shameful as revealing the organization's existence to the world.
This is the first real in-depth look we've gotten at the internal culture of Baroque Works, and it's terrifying. It's not a pirate crew. There's no camaraderie, no loyalty born of friendship. It's a corporate, clandestine agency where failure is not an option. It has a rigid code of conduct, but it's a code of perfection and secrecy, not honor.
He even says their missions must be accomplished perfectly. There's no room for error. This isn't about adventure or treasure or dreams for these people. This is a job, a deadly, serious job, and if you mess up, you're not just fired, you're worthless. It explains why they're so dangerous. They're not chaotic pirates, they're methodical, ruthless agents.
He then offers them a second chance, but it's not out of kindness. It's a power play. He says because their failure led him and his partner to Little Garden, he'll graciously give them 30% of the pay for his new mission.
Which is basically him saying, you're demoted, you're not officer agents anymore, you work for me now. He completely hijacks their operation, and there's a threat behind it too. He even says if they don't want to interfere, he'll have to take measures to make sure they can't. That's not a suggestion, that's a threat of elimination.
A very clear one. It establishes his authority and the ruthlessness of the organization's hierarchy. You don't refuse an order from a superior agent. And then he reveals why he's here. He says there's a fortuitous opportunity on this island, a chance to make a huge sum of money.
And he pulls them out, the wanted posters, for Dorry and Brogy.
And they're old, faded. The paper's yellowed and looks like it's about to crumble. They look like they're from another era entirely. The art style of the drawings is even different, simpler.
Because they are. Mr. 3 explains these posters are 100 years ago, and he drops this bombshell lore. He talks about a legendary crew that terrified the world, the warrior giant pirates.
This is a significant moment. We're not just getting a backstory for two giants on an island. We're uncovering a piece of world history, a pirate crew of giants from Elbath. The implications of that are immense. Imagine a whole ship of warriors of this scale.
And their captains were Dorry the Blue Ogre and Brogy the Red Ogre. This isn't just a random duel. This is a clash between two legendary pirate captains. It completely recontextualizes their century-long fight. This is the equivalent of finding out Gold Roger and Whitebeard had been secretly fighting on an island for 100 years.
It also explains why they are so powerful. They weren't just strong giants. They were the leaders of the strongest giants. And then Mr. 3 reveals the history with the massive price tag. He reveals their bounties.
100 million berries, each.
For a combined total of 200 million berries.
200 million! Let's just stop and put that in perspective for a second. Think about the bounties we've seen so far. The guys who were the absolute terrors of the East Blue, the big shots, had bounties in the tens of millions. We're talking about a combined bounty that is on a completely different level than anything we have even conceived of in this world so far. This is a completely different league.
And it's 100 years old. That's the part that I can't get over. Think about what that means. A bounty that high from that long ago was never claimed. The world government and the Marines, with all their resources over an entire century, never caught them. They were so formidable that the government essentially gave up.
They didn't just retire. The poster says their names faded into legend. It's like they vanished off the face of the earth. But the threat they represented was so huge their bounties were never rescinded. They've been active, living bounties for a century. That number has been sitting on the books, collecting dust, because no one was strong enough or crazy enough to try and collect it.
It implies a level of power and influence that we haven't even comprehended yet. Luffy said it when they entered the Grand Line. The East Blue was a fish pond. This is the open ocean, and there are krakens in it. These two giants are our first real krakens. They represent the true scale of the Grand Line.
This is the Grand Line. This is what it's all about. Finding living legends locked in a duel for a century with bounties that could buy a small country. Super. This is what we came here for. The adventure is getting real fast.
Mr. 5 and Miss Valentine are speechless. You can see it on their faces. Their entire worldview, their sense of scale has just been shattered. And Mr. 3 lays out the new mission with that same smug confidence. Capture the giants, claim the 200 million, and their promotions within Baroque Works are guaranteed.
And that's when it clicks for Mr. 5. He's not stupid. He puts two and two together. He realizes Mr. 3 was the one who put the bomb in the rum.
Of course, Mr. 3 practically confessed already. With a little scheming, even a mountain can be leveled down to the ground. He's not going to fight them head on. No one in their right mind would. He's going to use strategy, manipulation, and his devil fruit powers in concert.
He's a true villain. He's not just strong, he's smart and he's dishonorable. He's using their own honor, their absolute code against them. He found their one weakness, their absolute refusal to abandon their duel for any reason, and he's exploiting it perfectly. He's not trying to beat them in a fight, he's rigging the fight they're already in.
Which takes us right back to that duel. The volcano on the island erupts again, signaling the time for their daily battle.
It's like a clock for their ritual, and Brogy stands up, ready to go. Usopp is freaking out, trying to tell him he's injured from the last fight, that he's still bandaged up. But Brogy just shuts him down completely. He has this incredibly stern, powerful expression.
He says that making excuses in a relentless fight to the death would only tarnish one's honor. He then explains that Dorry was injured in the previous battle too. They are equals in victory and in injury. To take advantage of an opponent's weakness or to use one's own weakness as an excuse are both equally dishonorable. Theirs is a strange but complete form of martial equality.
It's so intense. And then we see Dorry. He's struggling. He can barely stand up. The internal explosion did a real number on him. Vivi is begging him not to fight, telling him the wound in his stomach will kill him, but he forces himself to his feet.
And he says he vows to give a fight worthy of Elbaph's honor, even if it kills him, especially if it kills him.
Man, that hits hard. You realize for him, dying in his sleep from that injury would be a disgrace. That's a death from a stomachache, from a tainted drink. But dying on his feet, in a battle for his honor between his greatest friend and rival, that's a warrior's death. That's the only death he's willing to accept.
Their honor is a cage. It's beautiful and tragic, but it's blinding them to the real enemy who is watching from the jungle, ready to cash in on their legacy. Mr. 3 is treating them not as legendary warriors, but as assets to be acquired.
They can't see the strings because they're so focused on the stage, and Mr. 3 is the perfect puppet master for this situation. He's not interested in their honor or their story. He just sees 200 million berry checks waiting to be cashed. It's a brilliant evil plan.
It also gives us Oda's author comment for the week, a simple Happy New Year message from back when this was published, where he says, "I'd like to write a really good manga."
Bro, I think you're doing it. I think you're doing just fine. This is incredible stuff. The stakes just went from a simple island adventure to a 200 million berry plot involving living legends and a clandestine organization that operates on a global scale.
The sheer density of the world building in this one chapter is staggering. The warrior giant pirates, the first mention of Elbaph, the internal structure and philosophy of Baroque Works, it all just expanded in a huge way. The world of One Piece feels 3 times bigger than it did in the last chapter.
And it all feels earned. We've been with Dorry and Bragi. We like them. We've seen their honor. We've seen their friendship underneath the fighting. And now seeing that very honor being used against them by this smug jerk with a 3 on his head, it makes you root for Luffy even more to just wreck this new guy's whole plan.
The collision is coming. Luffy knows someone is out there. Mr. 3 has a plan in motion and believes he is in complete control. And the giants are about to tear each other apart for the sake of their pride, unaware that their sacred duel has been corrupted. Everything is coming to a head.
I cannot wait to see what happens next. The stage is set for an absolute slobber knocker.
The giants' code of honor is so absolute. It's the very core of their being. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is that honor their greatest strength, or is it their most exploitable, fatal flaw?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right, let's get into predictions for chapter 119. What do you have for me?
Okay, first prediction. I think we're going to learn more about Miss Goldenweek. She was asleep and painting through that entire high-stakes meeting. That's not normal behavior, even for the Grand Line. It suggests her abilities aren't combat-oriented. I think her ability is something subtle, related to art or color, that affects emotions or perceptions. It would fit perfectly with Mr. 3's preference for scheming over brute force. She's not a fighter. She's another tool for manipulation.
I like that. A psychological power. That's creepy. Okay, for my first one, I think Mr. 3 is going to directly interfere in the duel with his wax powers. The bomb was step 1, to weaken Dorry. Step 2 will be to ensure one of them falls. I'm picturing him creating a wax shield for one of them that's secretly weak and shatters at the wrong moment. Or maybe a wax weapon that breaks on impact to give one giant a fatal opening against the other. He's gonna rig the fight in real time.
Using his powers to tip the scales of their honorable fight. That's perfectly in character. My second prediction is that the bomb was only for Dorry. Mr. 3 will have another separate trap for Broggy. He knows Broggy is also injured from his previous fight. The plan won't be as simple as weaken one giant. It will be to weaken them both simultaneously through different insidious means, then go in for the capture when they are both on the verge of collapse. He's a strategist. He would account for both targets.
A two-pronged attack makes sense. He's not the type to leave things to chance. For my second one, I predict that Luffy and the others are going to converge on that wax house. Luffy knows there's an enemy, and he's probably already sniffing around. What's the most unnatural, suspicious thing in a prehistoric jungle? A giant candle. They're going to find Mr. 3's base of operations, and the fight is going to come to him whether he's ready for it or not.
That feels inevitable. They are drawn to trouble. For my final prediction, I believe Vivi will be the one to figure out the full extent of the plot. She's the only one thinking like a strategist right now. Luffy's running on instinct, and the others are caught up in the giant's drama. Vivi understands conspiracy and clandestine organizations from her experience with Baroque Works. She'll connect Mr. 3's methods and title to the larger threat, and be the one to warn the others about what they're truly up against.
Ooh, good call. She's the brains of the political side of the operation. And my last prediction is all about our boy Usopp. He's been watching these warriors, idolizing them. He wants to be a brave warrior of Elbaf, but he's also seen their friendship. I predict he's going to do something to try and stop the fight. It'll probably look cowardly to them, maybe a sneak attack with a smoke star or a rotten egg to disorient them. But it will be an act of incredible bravery. He'll be trying to save them from themselves and their code. It'll be his first true step towards becoming a brave warrior of the sea, not by fighting like them, but by fighting for them.
By defying the very warriors he admires in order to save them. That would be a fantastic and complex character moment, a true test of his definition of bravery.
Right? It's exactly the kind of thing Oda would do. All right, those are our predictions. A lot to chew on for the next chapter.
We'll see next time if any of them come to pass. Join us then as we continue our journey through the Grand Line.
Until then, stay super.